I sat in Dr. Patricia Chen's office, staring at the x-rays on her screen. My hands were shaking, and it wasn't from the coffee I'd had that morning. "Marcus, I need you to understand the severity of this," she said, her voice steady but concerned. "Your coronary arteries are significantly blocked. We're looking at triple bypass surgery, and we need to schedule it within the next 10 days. 2 weeks at the absolute maximum." I nodded slowly, trying to process what she was telling me. At 58, I thought I'd been taking care of myself. I'd survived losing my wife Sarah to cancer 3 years ago. I'd rebuilt my life. And now this. "Can it wait a month?" I asked. "My wife Elena and I have this trip planned too." Dr. Chen cut me off. "Marcus, no. Listen to me very carefully. With blockages this severe, you're at extreme risk for a massive heart attack. Every day we wait increases that risk exponentially. Flying, especially long international flights, would be incredibly dangerous given your condition. The altitude, the pressure changes, the stress on your cardiovascular system, any of those factors could trigger a cardiac event." I felt my chest tighten just hearing her words. "I understand. Do you?" She leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "Because I need you to cancel whatever trip you have planned. This is life or death, Marcus. Not next month. Not after a vacation. Now." I drove home in a daze, replaying Dr. Chen's words in my head. The surgery itself didn't scare me as much as the timing. Elena had been so excited about our trip to Bali. We'd been planning it for months, or at least she had. She'd booked everything, paid for everything, made it this grand gesture for our 5-month anniversary of marriage. Our whirlwind romance had surprised everyone, especially my daughter Olivia. Elena and I had met 14 months ago at a charity gala for the hospital where Sarah had received treatment. Elena worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, beautiful and vivacious at 39. She'd made me feel alive again after years of grief and loneliness. When I walked through the door, Elena was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she arranged flowers in a vase. She looked up with that bright smile that had captured me from the start. "How was your appointment?" she asked. I set my keys down carefully. "We need to talk." Her smile faded. "That sounds serious." "It is." I explained everything Dr. Chen had told me, watching Elena's face as I spoke. I expected concern, maybe tears, definitely questions about the surgery and my prognosis. What I got instead made my blood run cold. "But Marcus, we can't cancel Bali. Everything's already paid for. The flights are non-refundable." I stared at her. "Elena, did you hear what I just said? The doctor told me I could have a heart attack. Flying could kill me." I know. But she twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd noticed before. "We've been planning this for so long. Can't we just go for a few days? Have the surgery when we get back? The surgery needs to happen in 10 days. The doctor was very clear. Elena's face flushed. "You always do this. You promise me things and then you back out. First it was the cruise, then it was moving into a bigger house, and now this. This is my life we're talking about. And what about our life together?" Her voice rose. "What about the promises you made to me? About experiencing the world together? About not letting fear control us?" I felt like I was in the twilight zone. This wasn't the conversation I'd expected to have. "I'm not choosing fear over adventure, Elena. I'm choosing to not die on an airplane." She grabbed her purse. "I need some air. I can't deal with this right now." The door slammed behind her. I stood there alone in our kitchen, more confused than angry. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. That evening, my daughter Olivia stopped by. At 29, she'd inherited her mother's practical nature and her sharp intuition. We sat on my back deck overlooking the lake, the same deck where Sarah and I used to watch sunsets. "Dad, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me," Olivia began. "Elena's reaction to your diagnosis isn't normal. She's just upset about the trip." "No," Olivia cut me off. "Mom would have burned those tickets herself if it meant keeping you safe. A wife who loves her husband doesn't prioritize a vacation over his life-threatening heart condition." I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. "And there's something else," Olivia continued. "I didn't want to say anything before, but Elena asks a lot of questions about your assets, about the house, your retirement accounts, your business. She asked me last month who the beneficiary was on your life insurance. She was probably just trying to understand our financial situation. Or she was making sure she's the beneficiary. Olivia pulled out her phone. I did some digging. Did you know she's the one who suggested you increase your life insurance last year? You went from 500,000 to 2.5 million. I had forgotten about that. Elena had brought it up during a dinner conversation, mentioning how her friend's husband had died unexpectedly and left his family with nothing. It had seemed sensible at the time. That doesn't mean anything sinister, I said, but doubt was creeping in. Maybe not. But combined with everything else? Her pushing for this trip right after you get a diagnosis that makes flying dangerous? Dad, I'm scared for you. After Olivia left, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying conversations with Elena, looking for patterns I'd missed. Around 2 a.m, I got up for some water and noticed a light under the door of Elena's home office. I knocked softly and opened the door. She quickly closed her laptop. You startled me. Sorry. Couldn't sleep. I noticed papers spread across her desk. What are you working on? Just some work stuff. But her hand moved to cover one of the documents. At 2 a.m? She laughed, but it sounded forced. You know me, night owl. She stood and ushered me toward the door. Let's both try to get some rest. The next morning, after Elena left for work, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went into her office and looked at those papers. My hands trembled as I read through them. Medical evacuation insurance, international death certificates, procedures for claiming life insurance abroad, pages of internet searches about sudden cardiac death during air travel. My chest tightened. Maybe she was just worried, researching what could happen. But there was something else, a sticky note with a phone number and the name Blake. I called the number. A man answered. Elena, I told you not to call me during the day. This isn't Elena, I said. Silence. Then, who is this? Her husband. Who are you? He hung up. I sat there shaking, my mind racing. I called my best friend Thomas, who'd known me for 30 years. He came over within the hour. I need your help, I told him. And I need you to think I'm not crazy. Thomas listened to everything. When I finished, he didn't hesitate. My cousin runs a private investigation firm. Let me make a call. By that afternoon, I'd hired an investigator named Jennifer Walsh. She was professional, efficient, and took my concerns seriously. Give me 48 hours, she said. I'll find out who Blake is and what connection he has to your wife. Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. I acted normal around Elena, even though every interaction felt like a performance. She seemed relieved that I wasn't bringing up the diagnosis anymore, that I seemed to be coming around to the idea of the trip. Maybe we could go for just a week, I said over dinner. Get back in time for the surgery. Her face lit up. Really? Oh, Marcus, I knew you'd understand. We need this. We need time together before you go through something so major. The way she emphasized before made my skin crawl. Jennifer called on the 3rd day. You need to see this in person. Can you come to my office? I told Elena I had a meeting with my accountant. When I sat down across from Jennifer, she slid a folder across the desk. Blake Sullivan, 42 years old, former Army medic, now works for Global Med Emergency Transport. They handle medical evacuations internationally. My stomach dropped. He and Elena have been in a relationship for 3 years. They were together before you met her, and they never broke up. The room spun. 3 years. Before me. During me. Jennifer continued, her voice gentle but firm. There's more. Blake was also connected to Elena's first husband, Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel died 5 years ago during a vacation to Costa Rica. Cause of death was listed as sudden heart attack. He was 52. Elena collected $800,000 in life insurance. Jesus Christ. Blake was in Costa Rica at the same time. I found his travel records. He worked as a medical consultant on the trip. This can't be real. Jennifer pulled out more documents. I accessed your wife's text messages. Marcus, I'm sorry, but you need to see these. I read through them with shaking hands. Elena to Blake. He got the diagnosis. Perfect timing. 2 weeks until surgery. Plenty of time to execute. Blake to Elena. Bali flight is 4 hours. With his blockages, high altitude will put maximum stress on his heart. I'll be positioned as medical staff on the evacuation team. When he goes into distress, I'll render aid and ensure the outcome we need. Elena to Blake. 2.5 million. We split it and disappear. Just like we planned with Daniel, but bigger. Blake to Elena. This time we're smarter. We learned from Costa Rica. No one will question natural causes with his documented heart condition. His own doctor warned him flying was dangerous. It's perfect. I thought I was going to throw up. There's one more thing, Jennifer said quietly. Daniel Rodriguez's family has always suspected foul play. They hired their own investigator after his death, but couldn't prove anything. I contacted them. They're willing to reopen the case if we can connect Blake to both deaths. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember parking the car or walking into the house. I just remember Elena standing in the kitchen, smiling at me. Hey, honey, how was your meeting? And I smiled back. Good. Really good, actually. I've been thinking about what you said. About living life fully. About not letting fear control us. Her eyes brightened. Yeah? I want to go to Bali. I want to take that trip with you. She threw her arms around me. Oh, Marcus, I'm so happy. You won't regret this. But I was already planning. Jennifer had contacted the FBI. Insurance fraud across state lines. Conspiracy to commit murder. Possible connection to a previous suspicious death. This was bigger than local police could handle. They wired me up the next day. A tiny microphone invisible under my shirt. Jennifer coached me on how to get Elena talking. She feels safe now, Jennifer said. She thinks she's won. That's when people get careless. I invited Elena to dinner at Celestino's, the Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date. She dressed up, looking beautiful and excited, looking like the woman I thought I'd married. Over wine and pasta, I took her hand. I want to talk about something. Of course. She squeezed my fingers. The life insurance. The $2.5 million. If something happens to me, you'll be taken care of. Marcus, don't talk like that. No, I need to. With this surgery, anything could happen. And I realized you were right to increase it. You were thinking ahead, protecting yourself. That's smart. She relaxed slightly. I just wanted us to be secure. Even though we haven't been married very long. Some people might think it's strange, increasing it so much after only a few months together. Those people don't understand how much I love you. She sipped her wine. How much I want to make sure you're not worried about me if the worst happens. What if the worst happens on the trip? On the flight to Bali? Her hand stiffened in mine. Why would you say that? Dr. Chen warned me. Flying with my condition is dangerous. What if I have a heart attack at 30,000 feet? Elena's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite read. Then at least you died doing something adventurous. Something you wanted to do. Is that what you tell people? That I died doing what I wanted? What else would I say? She pulled her hand back, reaching for her wine glass. You could say that you pushed me to go despite medical advice. That you prioritized a vacation over my safety. Marcus, what are you? Or you could tell them the truth. That you planned it. That you and Blake set this whole thing up. The wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Blake Sullivan, your boyfriend of 3 years. The medical transport specialist who was in Costa Rica when Daniel died. The man who was going to be on my medical evacuation flight. Elena stood abruptly, her chair screeching. You're insane. The stress of the diagnosis is making you paranoid. Am I? Then explain the texts. Explain why you increased my insurance right before I got this convenient diagnosis. Explain why you've been researching sudden cardiac death on airplanes. People at nearby tables were staring now. Elena's composure cracked. You have no proof of anything, she hissed. Actually, we do. I stood as well. The FBI has your texts. They have Blake's travel records. They have Daniel's case files. And they have Costa Rica reopening the investigation into his death. Her face transformed from fear to rage. You stupid old man. Do you know how easy you were? How pathetic. A lonely widower so desperate for company that you didn't question anything. You signed over everything I asked for. You changed beneficiaries because I suggested it over dinner. You were so eager to believe someone young and beautiful could love you. Keep talking, I said quietly. Daniel was the same way. Trusting, stupid men who think with their... She stopped abruptly, realizing what she was saying. That's when 2 FBI agents stood up from a table across the restaurant. Elena Rodriguez Wellington, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and insurance fraud. The restaurant erupted in chaos. Elena tried to run, but they caught her easily. She screamed at me as they handcuffed her. obscenities and threats that made other diners gasp. I just stood there, trembling, as they read her rights. Blake Sullivan was arrested simultaneously at his apartment. They found detailed plans on his computer: how to trigger a cardiac event, what medications to withhold, how to ensure I didn't survive the flight. They'd practiced with Daniel. This time, they'd tried to perfect the method. The trial took 8 months. In that time, Costa Rica officially reopened Daniel's case and found enough evidence to charge Blake and Elena with his murder as well. Daniel's family sat behind me in court every day, holding my hand during the hardest testimonies. Elena showed no remorse. Even in court, she maintained that she'd loved me, that this was all a misunderstanding. The jury saw through it in less than 3 hours of deliberation. Elena got 40 years for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and tampering with prescription medication. Blake got 25 years as an accessory. Both were convicted in Costa Rica for Daniel's murder, with additional sentences to be served after their U.S. terms. I had my bypass surgery 2 weeks after Elena's arrest. Olivia was there when I woke up, holding my hand just like she had after Sarah died. "You saved my life," I told her. "You saved your own life, Dad. You listened to your gut." Recovery was long. Physically, the surgery was successful. Emotionally, I had to rebuild everything I thought I knew about love and trust. 6 months later, I stood at Sarah's grave. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm sorry I was so desperate to replace you that I invited a monster into our home, into the life we built. But I wasn't broken. That's what surprised me most. I was angry, yes, betrayed, absolutely. But Elena hadn't destroyed me. I started a foundation in Sarah's name, the Sarah Wellington Fund for Widower Support and Elder Financial Abuse Prevention. We hold workshops on recognizing manipulation tactics. We provide counseling for people who've lost spouses and are vulnerable to predatory relationships. We've helped dozens of men and women avoid what nearly happened to me. Olivia works with me now, helping run the foundation. Our relationship grew stronger through this nightmare. She reminds me every day that I have everything I need: family, purpose, health. On what would have been Sarah's 65th birthday, Olivia and I released lanterns by the lake, watching them float into the twilight sky. "Mom would be proud of you," she said, "turning this into something good." "I was so lonely after she died," I admitted. "I thought I needed someone to fill that hole. But the hole wasn't from being alone. It was from grief. And grief doesn't get filled by another person. It gets processed, integrated, lived with. You're whole on your own, Dad." I looked at my daughter, at the lake, at the life I still had. "Yeah," I said, "I am. I think about those texts sometimes, late at night when sleep won't come." Perfect timing. Elena had written about my diagnosis, as if my potentially fatal heart condition was convenient for her, as if my death was just a step in her plan. Dr. Chen told me later that my blockages were severe but not immediately life-threatening. With medication and lifestyle changes, I could have safely waited a few weeks for surgery. The urgency she'd conveyed was standard medical practice for my condition. But Elena had heard something else. She'd heard opportunity. That's what haunts me most. Elena didn't create my medical crisis. She just planned to exploit it. She would have waited for any vulnerability, cancer, stroke, accident, and then moved in for the kill. Literally. I kept one thing from the investigation: a photo of Elena and Blake together in Costa Rica, dated 3 days before Daniel died. They're smiling at the camera, holding tropical drinks, looking like any happy couple on vacation. Except they weren't the couple. Elena was there with Daniel. Blake was the shadow, the ghost who would ensure Daniel never came home. I keep it as a reminder, not of betrayal, but of truth. People can look like anything on the surface. They can smile and declare love and seem perfect. But character reveals itself in crisis, in how someone responds when your life is on the line versus their financial gain. Thomas visits every Tuesday. We play golf, like we did before all of this. He never says "I told you so," even though he was skeptical of Elena from the start. "You were lonely," he said once. That's not a crime. She was a predator. That is. At the foundation, I meet people all the time who've been through similar experiences. Not always murder plots, but romance scams, financial exploitation, emotional manipulation of vulnerable people. The statistics are staggering. 1 in 5 widowers remarries within 2 years, and a significant percentage become targets. I tell them my story. All of it. The loneliness, the rush into marriage, the red flags I ignored because I wanted so badly to believe. And then I tell them about Olivia's warning, about listening to family who truly love you, about trusting your gut when something feels wrong. I'm alive because I paid attention, I say. Because when the woman I loved prioritized a vacation over my survival, I couldn't ignore that anymore. Last month, I got a letter from Elena. Prison had not softened her. She still maintained she'd loved me, that she'd never meant to hurt me, that Blake had manipulated her. She blamed everyone but herself. I didn't write back. There's nothing to say to someone who views other people as means to an end. Who can smile at you over dinner while planning your death? Instead, I wrote to Daniel's mother. She's in her 80s now, finally getting justice for her son. We talk sometimes, two people who loved and nearly lost more. You gave my boy peace, she told me. You stopped them from doing to anyone else what they did to him. That's enough. That has to be enough. I'm 60 now. Healthy heart, clear arteries, clean bill of health. I live in the house Sarah and I bought together, surrounded by memories of a real love. Olivia brings her boyfriend over for Sunday dinners. We're talking about her getting married next year. I don't date. Maybe I will someday, maybe I won't. But I'm not lonely anymore. Loneliness was what made me vulnerable. It made me rush, ignore warnings, believe in something too good to be true. Now I know the difference between being alone and being lonely. Between wanting companionship and needing completion from another person. I am complete. I always was. The scars from my bypass surgery have faded, thin white lines on my chest. Sometimes I trace them and think about how close I came. 14 days. That's how long I had between diagnosis and that flight to Bali. 14 days was all that stood between me and Elena's plan coming to fruition. Doctor, Chen saved my life by being insistent, by not letting me minimize the danger. Olivia saved my life by trusting her instincts and speaking up. Jennifer Walsh saved my life by uncovering the truth, and I saved my life by finally listening. But mostly, Sarah saved my life. Her memory, her love, her legacy. Because when I stood in that restaurant confronting Elena, what gave me courage wasn't anger. It was knowing that Sarah would want me to fight, would want me to survive, would want me to turn this horror into something meaningful. The foundation has helped 43 people so far. 43 widows and widowers who recognized the warning signs in their new relationships, who stepped back and investigated before signing documents or changing beneficiaries, who chose safety over romance. That's 43 people who won't know what it feels like to discover the person sharing your bed was planning your funeral. I call that a legacy Sarah would be proud of. And on the days when I miss her most, when the house feels too quiet and the memories too heavy, I remember, I have work to do, people to help. A life to live fully and well, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. Elena wanted me dead for $2.5 million. Instead, I'm alive, and I've helped 43 others stay alive too. I've turned her evil into something good. That's the best revenge there is. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just escaping, but helping others escape too. I'm whole, I'm healthy, I'm here, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.